So it's the beginning of a beautiful week, and let's jump into yet again another Transformer Slag podcast Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformer Slag Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a decent job here in the daily news of Transformers and the deep discussions of the robots in the skies. Patreon.com/Protoman, or find the link in the pinned comment or the description below. What does it get you? It gets your name in the end credit scroll at the end of every segment moving forward. Gets you access to the Transformer Slag podcast Discord, where we rap about Transformers every single day. Share our views, opinions, break the news, translate stuff, share lore, share deals, share everything. It's a great place to be. Depending on what tier you get, you might also be part of the gift box in the mail, or, like today, with our patron Downright Superb, the Patreon listener question. So we have a Patreon listener question from Downright Superb, and he wants to know, what is your all-time favorite personal Transformer toy line? On top of that, what Transformer toy lines have the best value for money, but not only that, plastic quality, engineering, and aesthetic for that money? Thanks for everything, Downright Superb. Well, thank you, Downright Superb, longtime patron. This question comes up a lot in the live streams that we do on Saturday, and I feel like I answer it at least once every 2 weeks or so, but, I mean, why not? Let's put it in a segment here where, I mean, this podcast has, I think like over 1,500 videos at this point, segments. So there's always going to be someone new coming into the podcast, discovering us for the first time and wanting to hear what I think, I guess. So, and again, this is personal. This isn't like, flag in the ground, this is how it should be, and that's that. But just from my own personal experience, and I mean, I have a lot of Transformers, so I pretty much have a lot of experience when it comes to messing with all this stuff. And when it comes to my all-time personal favorite, and it probably might not be a shock to many people and longtime listeners, but I've always felt that overall the Beast Wars line is probably the best Transformer toy line in terms of its pedigree. It's still figures that if you mess with them today, they're not, they didn't age badly, like you mess with, look, G1 is very important to Transformers' pedigree and lineage, but you mess with a 1984 Prowl and you're going to feel how dated that product is. Even if it's reissued and even if they change like some of the metal to plastic, it's still just not there. Again, there's some of those are late 70s, early 80s toys. I can't blame you. But Beast Wars, in a lot of ways, it brought about a lot of the cues and engineering ideas that still would be echoing today in the Transformers brand. I mean, let's not even get into how, Beast Wars saved the Transformer brand. I mean, let's not even go deep into that, because Transformers was literally on fumes for 10 years. At that point, I mean, almost 10 years. I mean, I have to say, about 1987 till about 1990, early 95, late 94, they were just getting clobbered as a boy brand when it was Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Toy Biz's X-Men, and the 90s X-Men. They were just not even coming close to being on that Christmas list for a lot of kids and the must-have toys of the boy brands. But then it revolutionized the brand in so many ways and so many different stories. But just from a toy standpoint, I mean, look, Generation 2 Cyberjets, yeah, they had ball joints, they had self-stored missiles and weapons to a degree. Even the GoBots to an extent, kind of were also having, sporting some of that in the early years. And so you could argue that, some of the GoBots had some of that stuff, self-storing weapons, and some of them had ball joints or at least, universal joints. But Beast Wars was the first time that we had a line from front to back that every single figure stored his weapons on him, and almost every single figure. I mean, obviously, I think like Retrax. No, Retrax still had ball joints in some areas, but in general, literally, I would have to say 99.9% of the figures had amazing articulation and ball joints on top of all of that. And just those two factors alone, being brought to Beast Wars from an engineering standpoint, became the gold standard for Transformers moving forward. Everything we expect of Transformer toys today was born out of Beast Wars, and creating that as a standard and making that a standard. Like I said, yeah, Cyberjets had ball joints. They were really great posable figures. But G2 wasn't making that a standard. There was G1 stuff in there. There was still blocky, brand new G2 products. You know, whether it be, I don't know, like the Rotor Force, or even some of the more odder, you know, figures and stuff like that from the UK exclusives. Everything was still kind of that, I want to call it late Brave, blocky kind of aesthetic that still was permeating around the time of Generation 2. But Beast Wars was like, hey man, like we're going to put ball joints and it's going to be super articulated. And when you have ball joints too, it also prevents the figures from breaking easily. Yeah, you might lose the arms or legs easier, but you're not breaking them, you know? So it led to just this brand new standard of how Transformer product was going to be done. It also brought about the standardization of price points. At the time with Beast Wars, it was basic, deluxe, mega, ultra class, and then finally ending with the super class, which would be Optimal Optimus. You know, it started with that. Yeah, there was boxed case price points that were kind of behind the scenes with Generation 1 and Generation 2. Yeah, you have the mini-bots, the Autobot cars, and then you have whatever Jetfire was, and then whatever Shockwave was, and then whatever Optimus Prime was, and then technically whatever Megatron was. Like, there never was a standardized price point. It's just that certain characters just had to fit a certain budget, and they came in cases alone of that, which is a whole other discussion for a whole other time. But it's just Beast Wars kind of created that, and it also led to, you know, you have the price points, now you have the art of design, and okay, you got to fit this character within the deluxe price point, so how much plastic and paint has to be used to make it work out. There, I could go on and on. It's the same old song that I've sung a million times, but Beast Wars just will always be, in my personal opinion, the best Transformers toy line, just because of everything that it's done and still permeates to this day. G1 survives because it was the Neil Armstrong. It was the first foot on the moon. It was the beginning. And you can never take that away from G1. You know, you can never take, you could say G1 is dated and, you know, it didn't age well and the cartoons are cheesy and the toys are, you know, in general not that great and fragile, but it still was the first. And you can never take that away. That's why Generation 1 always will be on that pedestal, and those iconic characters will always stick around. Going to the second part of your question, Transformer lines that had the best value for your money, not just of plastic, but quality engineering and aesthetic. Again, this is just a personal opinion. We'll put Beast Wars aside because some of those Beast Wars toys do get costly. But if you want to talk about a line that for your money, even 10 years, 15 years later, you're still getting some amazing stuff. That Transformers animated line. I mean, there was a point where some of those Transformers animated figures were going up in value. I'm not talking BotCon exclusives and Japanese ones. That's obviously a numbers market against margins and what's available at the time. Like, you know, people are going to be like, hey, no, but, you know, Motor Master from BotCon 2011 is expensive. Yeah, but, you know, there was only so-and-so of those made at a BotCon exclusive. I'm talking retail. You know, you're talking like Deluxe Class Wave 1 Lockdown from Transformers Animated, which was a deluxe class that's bigger than most leader classes today from Transformers War for Cybertron. Talk about, you know, a bang for your buck, taking $10 and getting a fantastically engineered figure. And Animated really was one of the last few lines. Prime was just on the border of the beginning of this. Prime didn't get affected by it, but it was on the border of it happening. But Animated was one of the last lines where the budget was to the max on their product. You got a deluxe class figure, man, and every drop of budget of the plastic was put into it and paint, and they were just fantastic figures. There is very few animated figures of the core assortment. You know, obviously you could argue, oh, those activators are kind of garbo, and you know, maybe some of those Legends class ones were not that great. But of the deluxes, the Voyagers, and the leaders, fantastic toys. Absolutely fantastic toys. Not a very big line to collect too, which is crazy when you really think about it. Just in the American releases, it's much smaller than what came before it in both Cybertron and Energon and everything. But much smaller, much more condensed, great in terms of scale. Obviously, short of a few characters, maybe Lugnut and some others, but great in terms of scale across the line, and very affordable. It used to be at one point some of those figures were going for top dollar, but they seem to have started to go down again. I guess because the people who were trying to complete their animated collections completed them, and then the demand just hasn't continued. So a lot of those core figures, I mean, you could get great ones like Sentinel Prime, Jazz, Blur, Ratchet, Hot Rod, Optimus, Lockdown, Black Arachnia, Soundwave, Swindle, Long Arm in both versions, and the Shockwave purple and the gray. I could go on and on. Some of them are just absolutely fantastic figures that really, when you look at what they're going for on the secondary market, let alone when you bought them brand new. Brand new it was a given that they were worth it for the bang for your buck, but even secondary market prices aren't that terrible as of this recording. Watch after this recording, all of a sudden the prices go up. I hope not. But there was just so many fantastic figures in that line, and just from a quality and engineering standpoint, the quality of the ABS plastic that was used was top notch. The paint decos that were put on it were top notch. The engineering from guys like Ken Christensen and Aaron and all the other guys who were working on animated, great engineering that was going on there, and just the silhouettes of Derek Wyatt's designs that had that flavor of both a love of Beast Wars and Generation 1. So there was so much going on there that just hit everything on all cylinders. And if you're someone that's looking to collect a line but not break your bank, it's one of them. Now, like I said, when you're going to go that full completist route, you're going to fall into those, handful of Japanese exclusives, the Blackout, the Windblade Optimus Prime, and it's Wingblade Optimus Prime. I don't know. They keep changing the name. And the Hydrodive Bumblebee. Yeah, those ones are going to be the more pricey ones because, again, less numbers of them, other region. And then, of course, the BotCon stuff and some of the club exclusive stuff. But in general, all the retail stuff, easy pickings, brother. Easy pickings. A lot of it's out there. And any singular animated toy, when you mess with it, I just tell people, mess with an animated figure. Mess with that Lockdown especially. That Lockdown will make you, go outside and smoke a cigarette because it's going to make you go ooh, man, what's going on with modern Transformers with how they're doing the budget now? Because you mess with that Lockdown and then you go and pick up, I don't know, I don't want to pick on Siege Shockwave, but you pick up Siege Shockwave and go, here's a leader class and here's a deluxe, and you're going to go man, they're really trying to maximize their dollars now, Hasbro, in a lot of ways. But animated was that time where, it was being developed in 2007. They didn't know that movie was going to do well. It was a gamble. So they made sure that they were going to put out the best possible product possible for the audience. And we got that. Obviously when, the old saying goes, when all of a sudden everyone wants everything that you do, you don't have to try as hard because they'll buy it anyways. And we kind of, unfortunately, sometimes, I've said it many times, sometimes it wouldn't hurt for Transformers to do badly because then it's going to make Hasbro run instead of walk. And, but yeah, man, I'll go with animated for sure. You're gonna do so well in terms of enjoyment by picking up that product. And again, I this is just about the toy lines. We're not talking about media material or stuff like that or cartoons. But trust me, just the toy line alone is going to win you over. Watch the show. Watch the amazing stuff that Marty Eisenberg and Derek put together, along with all the other crew and the great voice acting. And you'll fall in love. You'll fall in love. So I hope that answers that, more or less, those two questions. It's hard to sum up such a loaded thing like that. And not to mention, again, I get it asked a lot, and sometimes some of those answers could change through the years. But it's the age-old question that once in a while we bring up again and again on the podcast, just to the new listeners, they want to hear what's going on and some of the opinions. But I hope that answers it. Again, other people, give your opinions. What do you think is the best, your personal favorite Transformer toy line of all time? And then what you think was probably the best bang for your buck, especially, back then. Secondary market, everything goes up and down. But, when you're paying $10 for a deluxe and what you got for $10, Armada is another one too that, that deluxe class price point was a good bang for your buck in a lot of ways. But I'll probably go into that in another discussion on another podcast maybe. But that's a whole other story. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. And again, if you want to be part of the Patreon listener question, like Downright Superb is here, or you just want to be part of the Patreon, throw a couple bucks at us and let us know that we're doing a half decent job here on the podcast. You don't throw away your money. You get some stuff in return. We make sure that all the fans get a little something, for just donating. It isn't just, hey, here's $3 and that's it. You get access to some good stuff, and you have your name there to let everyone know that you're supporting the craziness of this Transformer world. Hope everyone's having a great day. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again real soon.